I think I'm just going to start. Yeah, okay, so we're missing one person who is probably looking for the room, but thank you for coming to this panel on arts funding opportunities for people from throughout the North. We have a panel of funders who work either regionally or nationally or internationally, and so we're going to talk today about opportunities that Inuit can avail themselves of in order to fund projects of all different kinds, from screen to media-based to specific kind of practices, collaborative practices. We're going to get into every kind of opportunity. So I am going to pass the mic down and let everyone do a quick introduction, and then we're going to start just kind of going through an overview of the opportunities that are available from each of these funders. And then it's going to be a lot of Q&A. We want artists to be able to ask specific questions, and we can dig into what kind of arts funding is available. So I'm going to pass it to you first because you're sitting next to me.
Yeah. Morning, everyone. I'm Kerry Swanson. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Indigenous Screen Office. We're a national funder for screen content, Indigenous-made screen content in Canada. I'm based in Toronto. I'm the only one on the team based in Toronto, I'd like to note. But I'm originally from Treaty 9, born and raised in a little town called Chapleau. My family is from Chapleau Cree First Nation and Mishipcotton First Nation, where I am a citizen, and I'm also Irish and French. I am very honored to be one of the only non-Inuit speakers at the panel, and it's been an amazing day yesterday, so thank you.
I think it's customary just to start with a hi. So my name is Saali Kuata. Kutomi ngutsungat Qinnirajaattuq tamaan liramat Montreamit. Sitamaongeratunit or sitamaotunit ukiunit maan liraman lit. After kunip pinsuasunguvungat sonora tileri nit mingo tileri nit takuningat following the protocols. So anyways, sorry, I'm going into a lot of nuances. But yeah, my name is Saali Kuata. I'm from Qinnirajaattuq, and I work for the Avatar Cultural Institute as a program officer for the Takuminaktu Luminut grant program. So I work directly with artists, and in a nutshell, I just send out forms, they fill it out. If they need evaluation, I help them to fine-tune their grant requests. And anyways, all this information is going to be given to you in a timely manner. But anyways, that's who I am. I myself am an artist. I'm a soapstone carver, circus artist, photographer. So you'll be seeing me like all throughout the conference, just kind of like with my camera, taking headshots of people. I find this to be a very unique opportunity for me to do so. So don't be shy. If I come up to you and ask for portraits, and I'm always going to try to get your contact info. That way I can share it with you. Anyways, that's me.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Norman. Inuk woman born and raised in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, Labrador. And my dad's side of the family is from Northwest River and Nain, Nunatsiavut. And my mom's side are settlers from the Bata Vista area of Newfoundland. I'm the manager of artist services with the Inuit Art Foundation. So I think a lot of you are familiar with our organization, but the artist services department in particular, we provide artists with opportunities to expand their practice and increase their agency over their careers through different grants, programming, workshops, and yeah, so I'm here to tell you all about that and hopefully get some money into some artists' hands. Thank you.
Hello, good. Arnakkuluk ataqarpunga numingaannerpunga nutten 84 inungornikovunga eqqumitsuriarnermut aningaasaateqarfammi siulittaasuuvunga. My name is Arnakkuluk Kleist. I'm from Nuuk, Greenland, Kelallinunaat. I'm born in 1984. The reason why I'm saying those things are that in Greenland, that are two things that you're always like, you want to know about people. Which city are you from? What city is like your city? And what year were you born? So that's what we do in Kelallinunaat. I am the chair of as we call it in Greenlandic, and it's the Greenland Art Fund. Very happy to be here. Very happy to be able to listen to all of you and get inspiration, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to do more together. That's my hope, at least.
Thank you. My name is Susanne Andreasen. I'm the director of NAPA, which is the Nordic Institute in Greenland. So I was born and raised in Denmark. I've lived in Nuuk, Greenland for 16 years. Just want to say, thank you so much for having me.
Kwekwe, Qinnirajaattuq Nathalie. My name is Nathalie. I'm the acting program manager of creating, knowing, and sharing the arts and cultures of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples at the Canada Council for the Arts. I am Innu, French, and Scottish. On my mom's side, from the Pegwagami region of Nitassinan, or Saguenay, Lac Saint Jean area. Sorry, for some reason I forgot what it was called in French. Just French on my dad's side. Myself and 3 other colleagues are here to meet with you all to talk about funding opportunities for our dedicated program at the Canada Council.
Amazing, thank you. And Amy, I am an Inuk who grew up in Happy Valley Goose Bay, whose family is from the North Coast, and whose white side of the family is from Bonavista Bay. And I'm like, how are we not cousins? Anyway, like, weird, well, probably. And Northwest River. So this is fantastic. I think we should begin by talking about some specific opportunities. Do any of you have opportunities that are geared towards the North in particular? I mean, obviously some, like Greenland is going to be for Greenlanders, or maybe not, actually, now that I say that. Okay, I'm just going to turn it into a question. Yeah, let's start with you, because the Greenland situation, I think, is quite distinct. And so I think let's start there. And I would also say, you know, this is a fairly full room, but I just want to remind us all that this is being recorded and it's going to be made available to the participants afterwards. So even people who are not here right now will probably be very interested to hear the answers. So even if the people in the audience are not the ones that need to hear this now, they will want to watch this again later. So speak to everyone at the whole conference.
The question was something about our, what we do. So, the Committee on Moderator was established in 2022, so quite new still, but it's established by the Greenlandic government. And maybe in short, I could say that we have the ones that can apply for this funding are residents in Igloliorte in Greenland. So that's like the short version, you could say. And we right now, like as it is now, we have work grants and we have like grants to support project, artistic, cultural projects. And individuals, artists, organizations, companies can apply for this to apply for this money. And so of course the big restriction when it comes to projects and the possibilities for Inuit and other countries is that you have to be a resident in Greenland to apply. And that's also because that it's to secure that the artists in Greenland have the possibility to get this money to do their work. But we have examples of projects where you have cross-border projects and you have like Igloliorte artists working together with artists who are in Canada or some other place. And so it's usually a co-funding. It's been co-funded. So we have some examples of like Canadian artists, Inuit artists that are being funded by a Canada Council for the Arts, and we're funding on the Igloliorte side. But we can talk more about that.
Susanne, I feel like you could also speak to a specific kind of regional funding that's available.
Yes.
A little bit different?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe just to not excuse myself, but just to explain if I'm not able to answer all of your questions at this moment is because I started this work on the 1st of September. But we have brilliant advisors and people who know more than me, so sometimes I might have to say I'll get back to you on that. But anyway, the Nordic Institute in Greenland works, or we have, I have so much I want to say, so okay, I'll start with this. We have one program that's a culture fund, what is it called? Culture funding program. That's our own. And you have to have someone that lives in Greenland as a collaborator, same as the Arts Fund. There's not a lot of money in that, but there's a little bit. But we are then connected because we are a cultural institution under the Nordic Council of Ministers, and there are other funding bodies under that umbrella. So there are what's called the Nordic Culture Point and Nordic Culture Fund. They have a lot more money than we do. They also support international projects, but often you would have to have, one of them you would have to have 3 what's called Nordic partners. In this system, you count 8 Nordic countries, and Greenland is one of them. So, and in the other, you don't have to have 3 Nordic partners, but you have to have maybe 1 or sometimes 2. It depends, you know, you have to have at least 1 Nordic partner. But there is a lot of money, and they know that it's, they open it up because it used to be only Nordic, but now the one is much more globally orientated. Then we also administer something that's called the Arctic Cooperation Program. You also need 3 Nordic partners in that, but then you can have Arctic partners. That's what they want. And this is not only for culture. This can also be so many other things, but they also fund a lot of research projects. Yeah, this is actually something that we administer together with the university in Greenland. And then the last one, I know I'm just tossing it all out there and we can get back to it, but the last one I just want to mention now is a fairly new program under the Nordic Council of Ministers called the Nordic region and its neighbors to the west. And this supports Canada, United States, the UK and Ireland collaborations. This is also not just culture. This can be, you know, in different industries, whatever it is. But this is, they have a lot of money too. And there's going to be an open call starting next year. So they changed that program. So in the Nordic system that we are a part of, there are openings towards the west and the Arctic region. In short.
The other, I'll just say, because I have to talk into the mic for the recording, but I think, so Saali is also working in a regional kind of way, and then our other 3 panelists are all national for Canada, so I think it would be great if you spoke a little bit about Avatak's work.
Yeah, so our scope with Avatak is quite narrow in a lot of ways, but pertaining to the potential grant receivers, they're Inuit benefactors. And I'm using this language very intentionally because I have read through the James Bay Northern Quebec Agreement, the first modern land claims agreement of that created Nunavik. And I read that whole thing and I realized, like, oh, you know, we're not beneficiaries, comparing the kind of trade-off that we had. We had to sell our land to Quebec to have to be recognized as Canadians, essentially. So, and just seeing like the type of trade that was, I've been slowly training my vocabulary to change Inuit beneficiaries to Inuit benefactors, because it is us who are giving away what is most valuable to us. Anyways, so speaking to that, Avatak, our scope is to aim towards Inuit benefactors. So those who are living in Nunavik, and using the legal term that's used now, that's those who hold the Inuit beneficiary cards. So we serve, as long as you have a beneficiary card and a beneficiary number, you could apply to our program. So that also adds on to being a resident of Nunavik, being born there. I know there's ways that you can like live there and like end up getting a beneficiary card at some point, but that all takes time. But yeah, so a lot of our artists are from Nunavik because we recognize that we need to pay special attention to them because navigating this whole grant world of grant writing and I've always found, like, you know, as an artist, both as an individual and as a collective, like grant writing is like one of the most soul-sucking works that anyone could go through. So I commend all the artists who take the initiative to ask for funding, despite whether or not they know they're going to get funding. So recognizing that these are big hurdles to pass through, especially if you're going through like the Canada Arts Council or the Quebec Arts Council or international, we're just simply narrowing down the competition. So you're just only the easiest way I can put it is that you're only competing with your community members and your friends and neighbors, but not in a like I'm gonna like get all the money before you do. It's more like I want to start a project and enrich Nunavik arts as a whole. So it's working together as to reach the end point.
The ISO is a national funding and advocacy organization. So we are Indigenous-led, independent, and we recently announced $13 million a year in permanent funding from the federal government of Canada. We fund all screen content, so that includes primarily, of course, film and TV, but also gaming, short-form content, immersive content, and more recently, podcasts. So our funding has two streams, and they are organized basically according to the stage of production. So the Story Fund is the main funding stream at the ISO. We don't have specific regional programs, but we do make a very big effort to reach all Indigenous peoples in Canada. Our team is based across Canada, and I would love for more people in the North to be aware of the work that we're doing so we see more applicants when we post jobs, in addition to having more applicants to our programs. So the Story Fund includes funding for production, development, finishing funds to finish your film or your project, and marketing, promotion, and distribution. It also includes our newly launched podcasting program. Radio has traditionally been such an important medium for Indigenous peoples in the North, and podcasting, I think, you know, we're seeing that really become, in the same vein, a really valuable part of the screen content ecosystem. Podcasts often end up becoming screen content and are a really great learning ground for writers and for people to, especially emerging creatives, to find their voice and tell stories that often translate into much bigger projects. So none of the other screen funders fund podcasts. So the great thing about the ISO is we're very responsive. That is part of our mission, and our value statement is to respond to the needs of Indigenous creatives and to design our programs to meet those needs, and to evaluate our programs frequently and regularly so that we are meeting those needs. So we engage in constant dialogue and consultation with communities, and we respond with the program design. I just want to tell you about the second stream, so that's the Story Fund, and the second stream of funding at the ISO is called Sector Development. And through that funding, we have a program that has supported capacity building, and our biggest investment across the board has been in the North, in the studio that is being built by Red Marrow Productions. That's Alethea and Stacey's project. they're filming North of North. We supported the content, so the creation of the series, but more importantly, we invested in the studio that they've built that will be opening soon, and which will be fully equipped so that it can not just be a production studio for hire, but a community-based resource for training and capacity building. And so that's an investment we're really proud of, because we were the first in with our funding. It was $1 million, and it was more than matched by other partners who came to the table. We triggered a much larger investment from private and federal funders, and I believe the Nunavut government as well. And so training and education, apprenticeships, mentoring, building capacity is the mandate of that particular program. And so there's a lot happening in the North, and it's obviously a priority for us to support that. And the final thing I'll say is that we have new funding that we're anticipating coming into the ISO next year that would double our permanent funding, and we really want to focus on language-based content. And so obviously that is another priority for the North. So.
Amazing. I was just going to say that I recently joined the ISO board, so anyone who are interested can reach out to me. I feel like that's going to be my job. But before that, what I wanted to say was that I have previously applied for ISO funding, and what I really liked is that in many previous models of grant funding, if you apply and then you're missing something, or the attachment doesn't go through, or there's some kind of an issue with the application, they just kind of shelve your application. And so, but what I liked about the ISO is that I thought that there was a more decolonial process, that it was like we are trying to help you fund this project. So like if you're missing something or we need clarity, we tell you before the jury meets. Like we get all of that kind of stuff front-loaded, and I feel like, Amy, you could probably speak a lot to that and the artist services at Inuit Art Foundation.
Yeah, for sure. So our grant program is called Qinnirajaattuq Grants, and it's co-developed in partnership with Canada Council for the Arts. And so we try to do accessible, culturally relevant funding that supports Inuit creatives across all medium to pursue, their ambitions and further their careers. So we have 3 funding streams, and before I kind of get into the details about those, we do accept paper applications, email applications, but we also do phone applications. We try to make our process as accessible as possible. So you can chat with our program officer and apply that way. So that's super cool. So yeah, like I was saying, we have 3 streams. The first one is called Suturutit, or to gain material. This is a materials grant, so artists can purchase, the physical materials and things that they need to create their projects or their work. And this is $500 or $1,000. And then we have a second stream called Inukarvik to make space. This is more kind of small, medium scale project grant. Especially when artists are looking to experiment and try new things, get some breathing room there to research or, just plan for the future. So this grant is either $3,500 or $5,000. And then our final stream is the Turagak stream. So this is our large scale projects, $10,000 or $15,000. And priority is given to projects that demonstrate artistic vision over commercial focus. So these are our 3 big grants that we offer. It's open to Inuit from all over Canada, specifically, or what's currently known as Canada. And so we have applicants from the north, from the south. No matter where you are, you can apply.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I feel like, Nathalie, that would be a great place for you to jump in, because that was funding in partnership with the Canada Council, and then the Canada Council, of course, also has Creating, Knowing, Sharing, and I think that I'm also on the board of the Inuit Art Foundation, so I know a lot about this. So I think that I think what's really important about the Inuit Art Foundation granting process is that they get through some of the maybe more intimidating, like the portal and some other things that like maybe Inuit in the north don't feel as comfortable going in and like doing something, or your internet times out before you can get it done. That's thankfully becoming less of an issue. But you know, so having that kind of a stepping stone granting process where you're like, it's just $500, the level is quite low, and then the work you have to do to get it is also quite low, and the success rate is quite high. That, I think, encourages people to say, maybe next I will go for a full Canada Council grant. Nathalie, you want to speak about creating, knowing, sharing, please?
Sure. So creating, knowing, and sharing is a program with dedicated funds for First Nations, Inuit, Métis, individuals, groups, and organizations. The past couple of years, we were able to hand out, I believe it was roughly around $21 million nationally in grants and also core funding, which is sustained funding for stability for arts organizations that are Indigenous-led. We have 5 components in total. So we have travel grants that can allow you to travel not just across the country here, but internationally as well, as long as you have an invitation or you've registered for an event and you've been accepted to go somewhere. We also have small-scale activities, which is a micro grant where you can get up to $3,000 in order to be able to buy supplies, to create, pay someone for their time to share knowledge or to learn from them, or pay for registration fees for an activity. You can't pay yourself in that one, but at least it helps, you know, especially shipping fees can be a lot of money coming, you know, sending something up to the north is, you know, a bit of a barrier for some people. We can't fund what are called capital costs, like we can't fund a new computer or a new camera, but we could fund the software, updated software that you need for your project, or a lens for a camera because you want to experiment with different types of finishes, or sorry, I'm not a photographer, so I don't know what what the terms would be. And then we have short-term projects. So those are for projects that last up to 1 year. And you can request a maximum of $100,000. So those are for larger scale projects that may or may not involve other people. You can pay yourself through that for subsistence or an artist fee, pay others for their time, their knowledge, or their participation in the projects, buy supplies, travel, you know, it's a little bit of like everything. And it's, all our programs are multidisciplinary. We also have long-term projects. So this is for any project that lasts more than 1 year, up to 3 years maximum, and that one you can request up to $300,000. And then, of course, we have our organizations program, which is the core stable funding, and it's multi-year funding for up to 4 years, and there is more specific criteria in order to be able to be eligible to apply for the possibility of maybe getting some core funding. But also outside of creating, knowing, and sharing, there are other possibilities. People can apply to grant opportunities outside of what we short form call CKS. And we have prizes at the council that you can either be nominated for, apply for, or just receive as a surprise because you were successful in a project. We also have the public lending right program. So anyone who's an author who has a book in a library somewhere in the country could have the opportunity to sign up and list the books that they have. And then the public lending right program does kind of like a survey of various libraries across the country to see if those books are listed there. And this compensates you for the fact that you're not selling that book. People are borrowing it. So it's another opportunity for funding for authors whose books are out there in circulation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I think it'd be great to start talking to some of the Inuit in the audience who might have specific projects or ideas in mind, and then we could work through like whether or not funds may or may not be available. And I also see that there are some funders in the audience, and if you have an answer to one of the questions, you can also put your hand up, Amy, or Terra Foundation, like other Amy and Kerry. Let us know if you have specific responses to that. I've been making eye contact with Sim a lot, and I'm wondering if you've got a project in the book, Sim. You've done many things. No, you're like, no, thank you. I don't want money. I'm just here. Do any artists in the audience have a question or something specific they'd like to explore?
Hello, my name is Gabriel Nuriki-Ohaituk. I'm a digital artist. I've been getting a lot of small-scale activity grants over the years with the CCA. I've gotten Inuit also from the IAF. So I'm applying currently for my first short-term project. I guess it's specific to the CCA. And I wanted to know, like, this is my first time maybe doing a project for a year. I guess it's just a simple question about what is really subsistence, what are the subsistence expenses? Like, could it be rent for like an apartment? That's basically what I want to know, yeah.
So subsistence is basically covering your living expenses because, as we know, a lot of artists can't live 100% off of their art. They have to have a job. Sometimes you have to take some time off from that job, but how are you going to live while you're creating a new work? So that's what subsistence is to cover those costs of living. We don't prescribe a minimum or maximum amount. It's basically what does it cost you to live where you live, because the cost of living is different across the country depending on where you are. $2,000 a month for one person is enough, but then it's barely covers anything in another part of the country. So that's why we don't impose minimums or maximums. We always tell everyone, like, be reasonable with your amounts, and there's an area in the budgets where you can explain what those amounts are for. Just listing an amount and then you don't say what it's for, like it's for 6 months worth, or it's at X amount per month. And that plays the same way too for when you are paying other people for their time or participation. It's how much is that amount? And when you break it down in the budget notes, you have to explain to the peer assessors why that much or that little, because of what role they have within your project. Are you paying CARFAC fees? Are you paying musician union fees? Are you paying ACTRA fees? Or is it something that you've agreed between the two of you? Because maybe sometimes there's also, they will donate part of their time, but they also want to be paid for the other part of their time. So it's these things that you can take the time to explain in your budget so peer assessors understand the why of your budget.
Thank you. And I guess for Saali, through Avatak, would I be able to maybe budget some of the expenses, I guess, for this program, or would I be able to fit it in also with Avatak?
Yeah, especially with Avatak, we understand that our envelope is a lot smaller compared to a lot of the other grant funders. That's why we also have like a very narrow scope. Like our funding throughout the year, I think is like 93,000. It got up this year to 93,000 for all 4 quarters of the year, because our grant cycles follows a year. But we definitely encourage, if I recognize that your project has a lot of potential to get funding from elsewhere, either from the CALQ, I always encourage artists, like if I see that potential, I always tell them, are you applying elsewhere? Do you need help in those fields? Do you need me to read over your applications for the other ones? Because then that way, you know, when you have a second opinion on the work that you're doing, and I can kind of understand, like, you know, on the jury side, on the application side, like I've been on both sides. And yes, absolutely, you can have your rent be a part of your expenses. So when you go through the form, you'll see that all the eligible expenses that you have, it can be like wage, honorariums, remunerations, materials, tools, software, equipment. So, you know, we don't have a lot of limitations on those. It's just like the fact that the only limit is like the amount that you can get or that you can apply for. So we have 3 funding streams plus our residency. Goes from type A, B, C. Type A is for individuals for 2,500. Type B is for a collective of artists, so a group of artists for 5,000. And then our type C career development, which has a higher threshold in terms of like needing more documents and needing more intention to apply. That's $10,000. And also residencies also are, if you have a residency that you want to pursue, that's also a possibility too. So that's also $10,000, and it's not limited to just work in Nunavik. I've had artists go to Japan to learn about woodblock printing. I had another artist do a collaboration with Norway with the Sami artists. So they did an exchange between each other, and both of those artists are here today, so you can ask them about how that experience was. But yeah, so for us, we don't really have a lot of barriers in terms of what the funding. It's just, you just got to balance it out. You know, you got to like when I make grant applications, it's always hard to come up with a project because I can only recognize what I'm missing. I'm missing a lot of tools. I'm missing a lot of materials. So I make my budget first. I go on websites and like, you know, search, like, you know, if I want a camera, I go on Nikon and make my dream list. And then I take that total, put it into my grant, and then make a reason for it. So trying to convince myself to buy these things.
And I was just going to hop in and say too, highlight 2 things that are eligible under our grants that people often don't think about, which includes gas. If you're traveling, say if you need to go to the quarry to get stone, if you're a carver, you can have your gas covered. And another expense that's covered besides, you know, everything that everyone else mentioned, childcare. So that's super important for artists. So yeah, but we do have a list of eligible activities that's in our application form. Yeah.
Good morning, Mike Massey. I'm an artist. I have been on the Canada Council jury a number of times, and in one of my questions that I proposed to them back in the day was, they were asking us how can we better help artists with achieving their funding. And I noticed at the time the only thing they had were all their applications were in English. I'm just wondering right now, with all these grants, are they written out or able to reach any artist with whatever dialect they have so that they can answer it in their own dialect? So like, you know, do you have your forms printed in Inuktitut or Cree or whichever, and so that people can read it in their own language? Because I noticed that was one thing that was quite difficult back in the day. We're talking like early 90s here. And the other thing I'm wondering is, the grants are taxable. A lot of people don't know that. And I know that when I received my second grant, when I approached my accountant, I had a $35,000 grant. I had to give $20,000 of that into taxes. And the thing is, you can actually take that money, instead of taking it as a full amount, you can have it broken down into smaller amounts. Isn't that correct? And so that makes it a lot easier for your taxes and stuff. But that's something I find that needs to be discussed a little bit as well, is explaining to the artist, you know, this money isn't just free money. It's not totally free. It's free to a point, but it's not free because you are paying taxes on it. So I'm just wondering if that's something that's discussed with the artist as they apply, because I know that, like, at the time, we didn't have internet to work with and go on computer and find out all the information. So, like, I was hit with that income tax break, and as an artist, as you know, we don't make tons of money, and that really took a chunk out of how I was going to pay for that year. So it becomes difficult. I mean, the funding is great when it's there. It's just that things like that need to be explained to artists, because, you know, you can end up getting in trouble if you don't know your tax brackets you're in and things. So just to inform them that, you know, this has to be taxed, you know, you have to include it with your forms for the great year that the great part of year we all love, which is tax time. But yeah, I'm just really curious, are the forms now in all the different dialects?
Unfortunately, no. We currently have our guidelines and application form available as a Word document on each of the component pages of our program in the West Baffin dialect of Inuktitut. It would be absolutely phenomenal if we could offer everything in every dialect, but it would be cost prohibitive to have everything translated. And on the side of taxes, we do have some tax information on our website saying it is taxable. You will get a T4 if you've applied as an individual, and sending the grant money to a group or an organization or your management company, if, you know, like you're an artist that is being managed by like a record label or something like that, you're still the recipient of the grant. So, you know, you are still needing to be, according to the government anyways, needing to be taxed on that. In our grant acceptance form, we ask whether or not you want it as one lump sum or two. There is also information in your conditions of the grant about the fact that it's taxable. Of course, we mention it during our online information sessions also, that it is taxable money. You know, keep your receipts, have contracts with your participants, because you're paying out money. It's not 100% going to you. You know, you have to list your expenses. So those are things, yes, that some artists that are starting out are not aware of, that, you know, they'll get a T4 in the mail and will have to report their expenses, and it's not 100% income. But yes, someday it would be nice if everything was available in each language.
Could like one dialect a year be done? So that, you know, by the time 10 years come down the road, you have 10 new dialects added to your system. Also, I just want to mention, anybody who is applying for like a Canada Council grant, answer only what is on that form. I'm not kidding. I was on the jury a number of times, and we talk about this. If they want like a one sentence, very short description of what your project is, give one sentence. If they say a page and a half, that's the maximum you give just a page and a half at the most. If they want 10 images, just give 10. You know, it's what they ask for, because it depends. Like, I know I'm talking from, like, say, like 25, 30 years ago here, so I know things have changed quite a bit. But when you're in a jury, you have to look at numerous applications, and we only have, like, a juror only has so much time. There's only so many days, and you have to get through every application. So you never, ever, and this is a very true fact, never, ever send in anything they don't ask for. Because I was on the board, as a juror, and anything, like, we've had applications, of course, the ones that answered what you needed to know, and we went through those very quickly. But then we also had applicants that sent in numerous magazine clips and newspaper clippings and you name it. And we only have so much time, and I'm not kidding. Those ones get put aside because we just don't have time to read all that information. And because you didn't follow the guidelines of only answering specifically what they're asking, then you're kind of put on the back burner because of that reason. So when applying, just answer what they ask because it makes it much better chance of you getting a grant. And keeping it very specific, sort of thing.
On the subject of taxes and receipts, the advice of keeping receipts, keep every receipt. When you're an artist, you can expense, you should be able to expense most things that you're spending money on, including your cost of living if you're working from home, if your studio is in your home, your heating bills, your phone bills, anything that contributes to your ability to make a living as an artist. So when you go out for meals with people, see everybody sometimes fighting over the receipt when you go for dinner with artists. Anything that you can make a case for contributing to your art. So save all of the receipts, and all of those will offset your tax burden.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm wearing a hat as a former philanthropist from Alaska. And I was working at a Alaska Native nonprofit heritage foundation. And one of the ways that we were helping with the problem of not having applications translated into all the Alaska Native languages is we allowed submission of grant proposals by people using their cell phones, and they would make a video of what they wanted to do. So it takes more time to review those applications, but we got such cool applications when it was people in their villages showing what they wanted to do through a video. So I thought that was a really good way to indigenize the grant process. So I just wanted to share that in response to your question. Yeah, and then I'm so excited that there are funding opportunities for Greenlandic artists because I'm working on programs through an Alaska Native Museum Sovereignty project where we are partnering with artists who are in Canada and in Greenland, but we have like a tiny shoestring budget. And so we've brought over artists from Greenland to Alaska, and now we're bringing Alaska Native artists to Greenland. So I'm just really excited that this funding program exists, and I want to chat with you afterwards about how to help Greenlandic artists apply that I'm working with because they don't have a lot of experience with grant writing. So I'm curious, do they need fiscal sponsors or I don't know what, but I'm really excited that that opportunity exists. So just thank you, and I'll chat with you later.
It is a good question around also what kind of collaborations you do as funders across the board.
Can I just say really quick, yes, thank you for that, because I really hope that I didn't scare you all by saying all of these things, like the requirements, and like we are there to help, and we have advisors, and it's not impossible. And if you don't have partners and you're looking for a network in Greenland or in Sápmi or the other Nordic countries, we can actually help. That's why we're there. So, yeah.
And on the topic of applications, I just wanted to highlight that we do accept applications over the phone as well. It's not just the online form or a paper form. If folks, have difficulties with the paperwork side of things, they can call, chat with one of our program officers, and do it over the phone. You can also book a time to speak with a translator if you need to do it in Inuktitut. So that's, some of the ways that we're trying to make it more accessible to Inuit from all over.
Yeah, I don't know, just like a whole different things, but still it has something to do with this. And I don't know how familiar you are with Inuit or the different systems, but in Greenland, the official language is Greenlandic. So, but it's also a whole different, like we are the majority in Greenland, are Inuit in our Greenlanders. So, about just with the languages and all of that. But it's just important to know sometimes because you're used to being in one system in Canada or in Alaska, and then it's like another kind of system. Yesterday evening, we were some people sitting together, and then one from Inuit, one of our friends was like, "So is Toronto like Copenhagen?" you know, it's just because we are a part, Qinnirajaattuq is part of the Danish kingdom. We have physically our own big island, very isolated, but sometimes also very good because you have like a clear, we're far away from Denmark geographically. And for us, like south and north, and also like when you say north for you, the Nordic countries are like like a lot of them are Scandinavian, Nordic, and the Arctic. So just if you, sometimes I think for artists and also for you who work with artists, it can be like, okay, so how is this system? And so that's also part of maybe the difficulty sometimes when you want to do these projects together with people from the different national countries, but all Inuit, that the systems are a bit different. And yeah, so but definitely I'm glad to hear that you're doing these projects. Just wanted to clarify a bit because sometimes, yeah, you just don't know.
Okay, I have a question at the end, but I used to be the chair of the youth council where I was the chair of a fund, and now I'm the head of the office at the Art Council in Greenland, and it's been almost a year, but there were so many things to do, and I'm the only staff, so I'm slowly getting into a world I've known my whole life, but I see the similarities with taxes and fundings and how to apply in all the countries. And I remember JL and I was in Igloliorte and talked about the organizations, and all the artists there were so few because they were attending the festival. They were tired. They had sound like just saying that there was some established band there that didn't know about some of the taxes and how to deal with those. And I remember when I was at the youth council and was the chair for this fund with a lot of money, not a lot, but still a lot. We traveled to the youth organizations, our members, to all the communities in Greenland, and we made sure that all of the arrangements that were created a space where we could give workshops and seminars for all of the members how to, this was before the internet, so they filled these forms, but it's kind of like the same now, but online, and we would help them, and we would also create space for them to interact with each other and make projects together. And this has created a lot of very good and healthy community projects led by these youth leaders. And I'm just saying, like, in a space like this could also be one, because all of the artists, also established artists, need to hear more about this and need to be to have like a course or workshop for this. And I was just gonna ask, like, do you have anything like that? Do you like create space for giving courses like that?
So we do offer workshops, mostly online, and we have an online portal that is exclusively for Inuit artists, and you can sign up, and there you can see all of our past workshops, video recordings. So we have ones on budgeting, on creating your artist CV, on tax tips for artists, how to apply for Canada Council funding, how to apply for our funding. So we do offer all kinds of workshops, and yeah, and then the ones, if you happen to miss it, you can look at it online in our online portal. Our portal also offers opportunities for Inuit artists to connect with one another. We've had artists collaborate who have met through our portal, which is super cool. And it also features different grant opportunities. There's a database with over 200 grants, so Canada specific, but so yeah, we do offer that kind of programming in addition to like our grants and our scholarships and stuff.
So we offer a legal clinic, and again, that was in response to the need that we heard from the community that they needed more legal advice. Particularly making a film or television project is legally complicated, and you usually need to incorporate a business to do that, and the funding amounts are quite high. So we do the legal clinic, but we also are just about to introduce a youth strategy. We already fund a number of organizations through our sector development program that are doing youth-based projects. So if you have a community organization that is doing youth-based programming and includes making a film, or we fund an acting academy right now, anything that is connected to the screen-based art form, we support projects like that. And we're also looking at, through this new strategy, bringing together all of those organizations across the country who are doing youth programs with screen-based content, so they can share learning and learn from one another. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that we also do work within the circumpolar region. And a big piece of our advocacy is allowing our funding to extend into programs that are Greenlandic and Canadian co-productions, which has been a big challenge. We have Inuit productions, and if they don't meet a certain sort of points requirement, they're not eligible for Canadian funding from the screen-based funders, which is Telefilm Canada or Canada Media Fund, but they are eligible for ISO funding. So we've already bypassed that piece of the system that has prevented that collaboration. Usually it's not enough money. They still need money from those bigger funders. And so we have been pushing for 2 or 3 years, and those 2 big funders have just changed their, they're just in the process of changing their requirements so that those cross-border collaborations can happen in a bit of an easier way. So we do that advocacy. Is really important, even just like what Mike just did, just push the funders to deliver the programs the way that you need them, because it's your money and it should work for you. We believe that, like, the money belongs to Indigenous people, and it should work the way that Indigenous people need it to work for them. And so we push hard on that, and we listen to artists, and all of the funders, even if it doesn't seem like they're listening, if they hear the same message over and over again, they're gonna move in that direction. It's, you know, they do hear it. It doesn't always feel like it, but they do.
Amazing. I feel like we had better stop now because lunch is starting in 10 minutes at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. So please join me in thanking this incredible panel. And you've seen all their names and faces. You can reach out to them day and night. No, I'm kidding. that was really fantastic. And like the depth and the breadth is very impressive. So thank you all so much.